Good evening, everyone. Welcome. This evening, we are beginning with a special meeting for approximately 30 minutes. The purpose of this special meeting is an executive session to discuss performance of public employee, potential litigation, and a legal or financial risk in a course of action. And this meeting is now in session.
when I was a tech working around.
Hello, we are returning from our executive session, which is now adjourned at 5 p.m. Waiting for,
He's reinstalling Zoom, so if we wanted to get started.
okay, all right.
Yeah, Vice President
difficulty.
Farah, President Margell is reinstalling Zoom.
Okay.
And so if you wanted to start the meeting,
gonna
you
start, okay.
perfectly, yeah,
Okay.
please.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is a special meeting for Kent School District Board, which is held in public to comply with Open Public Meetings Act. The purpose of this meeting is Board Superintendent Annual Evaluation 2023-2024, Goal Progress and Outcome Discussion. This is the, yes. Now what I will do is I will do a song, and if you're present, please say present. Director Song,
Present?
Director Cook,
Present.
Director Clark.
Present.
I'm here, and President Margell is here.
Here, present.
Now, 2.01, I'll have Superintendent Velez start us off.
Thank you. First of all, Vice President Farah, President Margell, members of the board, thank you for taking the time today to be here tonight. This is, as a reminder, a second of 4 of our scheduled meetings for board superintendents' governance around the superintendent's evaluation. So I want to first say that. I also wanted to take just a moment to do just a quick overview, kind of our journey this year. I'll back up a little bit, but I just wanted to do a quick overview before I get started with a quick introduction of my team and then dive into the presentation for today. Just a quick sound check. President Margell, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Thumbs up, I see. Thank you very much. It is my honor and privilege to be with you this evening to discuss the 2023-24 goals, progress, and accomplishments in support of my annual evaluation. June marks my second year as superintendent of the Kent School District, a place I am proud to call home, as I've shared with you before, where my children receive their education and where I have dedicated over 20 years as a principal, district administrator, and now superintendent. The 2023-24 school year also marks our first year implementing our new strategic plan. Our plan focuses and unifies our efforts as a district in providing direction, framework, alignment, and accountability, and delivers a clear vision and coherent roadmap to achieve systems coherence to better support our students. I am thankful to our board for the cohesion of our governance team we've worked diligently to build. As we reflect on this school year, we celebrate student progress, staff achievements, strengthened community partnerships, strategic planning, board, superintendent, district goals, boundary changes, moving 6th grade students to middle school, just to name a few of our many collective achievements. And if I may, there are many others I could have shared, but I wanted to give the board just a framework of some of the great collective achievements. Thank you for taking the time and effort to reflect together on the goals, progress, and accomplishments of this year. Our commitment to our joint goals will continue to guide our priorities and align our resources to support student achievement and systems coherence. I remain focused on helping us attain our goals and arrive at our destination, which is producing graduates who are ready to excel in college, careers, and life. Thank you as part of my overview. I wanted to take a moment just to let you know who's here on my team. I'll be doing the bulk of the presentation, but with me tonight is Faith Sisley, Mr. Damon Hunter, Dr. Kim, Ms. Carol Cleveland, Simone Hamilton, Irene Aguilar, and Lizzie Barker, Mr. Spencer Pan, my deputy superintendent, Dr. Wade Behringer, Carolyn Curry, and you all know Dr. Nyland, who's been with us the last couple of years. I want to welcome them. We also have folks that are attending either online who may be with us watching this evening. So thank you for being here. I want to then go ahead and get started with the first part of our presentation and just share with you that if you look at the screen, you've got two columns. The column on the left are the goals that we as a board superintendent's governance team work collectively to develop and adopt. And we've done that each year of my superintendency. This one is specifically special or important in that these are the first ones that we've done with an adopted strategic plan that you took action on in June of last year. So we are actually still inside of that year, and it's exciting to be able to see that those are the goals on the left. On the right, you see what you as a board have looked at and adopted as the tool or the rubrics that we're going to use in terms of standards for superintendents. Dr. Lana has done quite a bit of work with us in sharing those with us and landing on them as a board superintendent governance team. The critical pieces that I wanted to share here are, again, the arrows to the left that we're working on systems coherence. How do we take our North Star of the strategic plan, look at research-based rubric on superintendent's evaluation, and make sure that we're aligning ourselves for the response being student success. The next visual I want to show is really the relationship between the two. So we have our goals, we have the rubric, which defines more clearly what are the pieces that make for a coherent system where you have an evaluation process that's designed really to support students, but there's a through line with every staff in the system. You'll notice that there's the colors that go directly aligned and aligned to the standard and the rubric, but you also notice there's some that actually align with more than just one goal. You see Goal 1, Standard 1, you're going to hear tonight a review of a number of things that actually go together. And that's the reality that all of our goals in some way, shape, or form touch each other. That's the whole reason for a strong focus on systems coherence and the process that we have embarked upon as a team. You also see down below the connection between Goal 4 and Standard 3. That some of the review pieces that I'll be sharing tonight will kind of further say and tell a little bit more of a story. So in short, the overview tonight are things you've heard. You've seen 2 reviews, and you have tonight. You also embarked upon the first of 4 of these meetings where you will be doing continued work tonight, even after this session. So I want to just bring us back to the process as we move forward. This is just another reminder of the 4 goals, which I just went over. And on the outside, these are those priority areas that we developed together. And I remember the first session together, I shared those as part of our baseline data in some of these, because this is the first year of our strategic plan implementation. I want to direct your attention to the highlights. Kind of hard to see, but I'm going to click it, and you can kind of see those that are kind of glowing. You have the green, the yellow below the green, and you have the orange up at the top right. These are those areas of review that I'm going to be sharing tonight. Very high level, and I'm only going to select some examples of each one of those areas. So I wanted to share that, and this is another visual to kind of say that in a different way. You see the standards that are aligned with the goals. You see the rubrics. There are, in the rubrics and those standards, there are several subtopics under each rubric. Today, we're going to be looking at program evaluation in Standard 1, and I'll be sharing just one or two examples of what we've done this year. And you look at Standard 2, I won't read these all to you, I'll look at mostly the highlighted yellow, share with you some of the evidence pieces of not only implementing, but the evidence pieces on what has happened this year in terms of implementation and Mill Creek Middle School and the partnerships that have been developed there in that school and surrounding area, I'll say, with our city municipality. Professional culture, we see the cultural proficiency indicator. You saw a great presentation under the leadership of Ms. Simone Hamilton with our students last year. Really excited to share a little bit more about some of the pieces there. And then finally, the recruitment, hiring, and retention strategies that are aligned with our management and operations in that goal area. So that's just a different way to show the pictorial picture of what you'll be hearing today. Now we're going a little more detail of what I will be sharing tonight. Just as an overview, that these examples that I'll share are really about this year. They're examples that include at least one example in each of those goal areas as I shared and each of the standards. There are others that you'll be reviewing in the next day and on into the next couple of weeks that you've already either heard during the first or second quarterly reports. And this is just an example, as I mentioned. The first I wanted to start with is really the data-informed decision-making. This is around instructional leadership as we look at the program evaluation annual plan of drafting this process. Recall that at the beginning of my second year, I was really focused on the portion of program evaluation. We implemented an HR review, among other things. We began evaluation of other programs and processes within the system. You, as a board, also updated Board Policy 2090, and it specifically speaks to program evaluation, and that's how I align Procedure 2090 along with program evaluation. And if you recall, just as an example, a couple of weeks ago, we had a work session here, iGrad work session. That's an example of program evaluation in that we are looking at data in a way that's going to inform us as a system in order to make decisions that are supporting kids that program was designed for, among other things. And I'll bring you back to a comment made by, I believe it was President Margell. You mentioned and shared that it's important that we evaluate our programs to know if they're working for our kids, but more importantly, in the spirit of continuous improvement, what are the pivots or shifts we need to make as a system in order to make sure we're continuing to focus on our students and the impact we want to make. We also had, as you recall, district-wide curriculum implementation of our adoption of CKLA. The evaluation, one is an internal evaluation. How do we do? We're in the process of getting that data so that we can continue to make decisions on professional development, for example. Not only do we look at our data, but we also look at how we did in terms of survey data, in terms of what's needed to continue working toward around the implementation and the evaluation of the literacy instructional strategies and the resource that the board has adopted in order to experience success for our kids. We also have a multi-year evaluation plan. We started this year noting a couple programs. I just mentioned iGrad. Kent Virtual Academy is also an example of that. This coming year will be the third year of its existence. And to kind of give you a little bit of history with this, it was developed during COVID in order to provide options for our students that either had left us or wanted to keep an online experience virtually for our families. We wanted that option. We want to make sure that we're collecting data and evaluating the program so that we can better assess the effectiveness on kids. That means, what's our enrollment looking like? Is it consistent? Is it increasing? Those are all questions that we ask. In addition, we also look at what's the profile of our student that's attending KVA. Are we hitting that mark? And also supporting those kids that want that option and need that option. We also have more short-term types of program evaluation projects, and we have Lizzie here from our research and assessment team and evaluation team, that they're continually getting requests for data. It could be short pieces of data that we need immediately. And so they do that in addition to longer-term type program evaluation that's more aligned with Policy 2090 that you updated in October, I believe. The evaluation process of CBO partners, that's another one that my team has embarked upon a process to work with our current community-based partners and organizations to hear from them what have been some of the challenges that they have had in working together, from the informational process and learning what contracts or data agreements we have to have, all the way to what does the contract look like and how can we make this better. And I'm proud to say that the process is now becoming more systematized. We have a consistent contract that I believe either is being implemented or it's been piloted, and our CBOs have been a part of that process, along with many other of our teams that actually touch those contracts. So that's just a process under program evaluation that I wanted to share with our board, with our CBO partners. By the way, we also look at this process in aligning to our strategic plan. Is the CBO partnership going to garner the types of impact that they're telling us it's going to have, and do we have the capacity to be able to work alongside with the CBO? And I talked already about the short cycle data reviews that you see at the bottom, helping us with decision making. I want to move to engagement. I mentioned Mill Creek Middle School, the project partnership. I will preface it by saying that we have not only Mill Creek, but we have our Kent School Districts, our City of Kent, our community groups to provide supports that I just talked about for not only Mill Creek, but other schools. And we're focused on an EPA, or a consultancy that actually meets weekly. And that team works closely on what are the mitigation strategies that we need to provide in and around Mill Creek, because as you know, it floods there. We had jumping ahead just a little bit with the City of Kent, we had a board and city council joint meeting here where you heard some of these strategies and things, I think just-in-time strategies that we're embarking upon. And this is really around engaging our community to the point that we are in our partnership, partnering on a grant application with the federal government. We have been meeting with Senator Murray's office over the last year and focusing on that whole creek, Mill Creek, to see what are some things that we can start doing. You heard during our meeting that we actually are going to start dredging that creek, I believe, Dr. Behringer, June 18th, to give you an update on that. That will actually not completely solve our flooding issues, but certainly will help mitigate what we're trying to accomplish there. Again, the actual focus is on our students. When it floods and we have to cancel school, looking at that from an equity lens, it's not good for our kids when they have to stay home for a day or can't come to school because of that. So, and I'd like to also want to say that Senator Cantwell's office also contacted us, and we'll be meeting with her on June 4th at Mill Creek to also talk about collaborating together on this grant. I will mention to the board, there is a lot of funding around EPA and focus around the country, and we're getting the attention because of the collaborative partnership and the engagement that we have around a common purpose. So I wanted just to share that, and I'm excited about that. Collaboration meetings and stakeholder meetings. I know at least 2 or 3 of board members participated in a safety summit at the Kent City Hall around can we do around safety. And we were able to provide a couple of things and also look forward to what else we can do there in partnering with our community. All this with an equity lens, a health lens or ecological health focus, and an economic benefit is beside the point when we have to close James and or Smith Street and look at the impact that has on Central. Not only can buses not travel through, so do trucks and businesses that can't continue with their days. So we're really embarked upon a large endeavor here, and we'll keep the board posted on it. So just thank you to my team who continues to do that. Standard 3, this is really our HR management and development. You know, over the years since COVID and coming back into in-school from remote learning, we've had a difficult time keeping certain staff, in this case, our fill rate for paraprofessionals in particular. I'm proud to say that as you look at the data that you have at your fingertips, I can tell you that the 3-year, or at least over the last year, our fill rate for that has gone down and trending in the right direction. There are a lot of things we've done together for that to happen, and I can tell you that those numbers are trending in the right direction for us. And thank you to our HR team. I know Ms. Aguilar is here right now, and I thanked her earlier today after looking at some of that data. And I talked about our current KSD paraeducators. We also have a certification process within Western Washington University with our Grow Your Own. I think it was Director Clark, you were part of championing Goal 4 in the past with HR, and lots of work has been done since then, all the way to the partnership that actually has great stories. And I'm going to share one story, and this will show up in a data point later in terms of the number of staff that were once a parent, a student, a bus driver, or other that now have become teachers, principals, assistant principals, and directors, assistant directors of HR, and that's the person shaking her head right now, who is a living example and data point of supporting this goal. I also want to share one more story, and I had this happen this last week. On this note, I have the opportunity to interview pretty much 100% of all administrators hired. Every once in a while, I can't do them all, and Dr. Behringer will help me with that process. But I was able to recommend, somebody was recommended to me, and I interviewed him just last week, a paraeducator at one time, who later became a safety services staff, I believe at KM or Mill Creek, don't remember the school, who later became a teacher, special education, I believe, who now is going to be an assistant principal in our district. And that is an example and a data point that I'm very proud of the work that our HR team has been doing around really growing our own. So kudos to our team for that. I just wanted to share those stories with our board. In addition to that, they've started affinity groups. We had this in a goal, I think, last year, Mr. Hunter, where we talked about this is a goal of ours. And we're well on our way, and you'll see in my review that you have today, that you will have a narrative of how we're doing. I'm excited about the work we're doing, in particular with our Kent Educators of Color Network, Black administrators, Puget Sound ESD, who also works in conjunction with us, and our best mentors. And I want to spend a little more time on our Kent Educators of Color Network. I've had the opportunity to meet with them, I think it was just a couple weeks ago, Dr. Kim, where we talked a lot about where are we with the presentation they've done with the board around the NEA grant they received? You recall, it was around attracting and retaining, in particular, our BIPOC staff and community. They have been very intentional about the work that they're doing, and I'm excited to have you read some of the narratives and the work that's being done there, and it's a reflection of our HR team and some of the work they're doing. And we're excited about joining and replicating the model that they have implemented over the last 2 years, Ms. Aguilar? Yes, the last couple of years that they've been implementing. We look forward to coming back to the board as an update to see how we're doing, and more importantly, I've talked to Assistant Superintendent Hunter about joining their efforts. Once the NEA funding begins to run out, we need to partner with our staff in that area to continue that funding source. So it's just real exciting to be able to see that and have you see that. Our residency programs, you all joined me. I think Director Cook, I apologize if you weren't there, was KLA, Director Clark, and I believe President Margell joined us at KLA, where we actually saw the University of Washington program at Tacoma, University of Tacoma, and University of Washington of our residency program. We hire quite a few teachers from that. We've just embarked upon another one with Central Washington University that is just starting off at Meridian Elementary, and we hope to continue that process moving forward. So those are just a few highlights, again, of examples and some data points. I want to move into professional culture, culturally responsive learning opportunities and resources aligned with race and equity policy. As you know, board adopted a race and equity policy. I think, Ms. Hamilton, it's been about 5 years.
Yeah, it was prior to me.
4 or 5 years. We've since done some revisions to it and aligned the procedure for that. But this isn't in alignment with that. Under the leadership of Ms. Hamilton and some of the professional development opportunities that we've provided and engagement that students are having, not only in this area, but really in the area we just talked to. There's a plan to have students work with our Educators of Color Network in learning how they could be a part of that process, and also look at curriculum adoptions in the future. And so more to come on that piece. But back to this, the shop learning opportunities started last year, I believe, moved on to this year. And I'm proud to say that after, in terms of examining some of the data there, the evidence, the purpose is really to identify those gaps, those cultural competency gaps around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it's just wonderful. I have myself had a chance to sit in and listen in on those PD opportunities, and what I appreciate most is the dialogue happening back and forth with the staff. And some of the numbers there that I'll share, again, you have more of this when we are completed with our presentation. Over 200 hours of learning and professional development have occurred. And that's a tribute, I think, to our team, our equity office. And I also want to say that over 1,000 staff members spread across all labor groups have actually attended. And we have plans to move forward to continue some of this as we move ahead. The type of learning that's happening directly aligns with what you heard from students a couple of weeks ago in terms of some of the needs that they have as our BIPOC community continues to grow, and we align ourselves with the staff that we need that look like the students we serve. So thank you again for the leadership of Ms. Hamilton in this area. I wanted now to move just to a thank you for just taking the time, not tonight, but really the time that you've spent over the last couple of years. And I know Director Song and Director Clark, it's the start for you, but you've done a lot of work together since joining our board, and in our board, and the focus on continuous improvement, systems coherence, and looking at being intentional about our goal setting so that we focus on those types of things that you have prioritized with me and that we are now really engaged upon this process of continuous improvement and coming back to you and reporting on how we're doing. So that finishes my presentation of the highlights that I mentioned. I do have my team here if you have any other questions, President Margell, about those specific highlights. We have the main people in the room to be able to share some additional pieces. Again, a lot of this data will be provided for you in your next session moving forward. So I will open up for some questions on those
Before we
highlights.
go into questions, and my apologies for not stating this earlier. I had some technical difficulties as I was trying to get onto Zoom. I just did want to state for the record that the board does have a second executive session scheduled this evening for 7 p.m. However, if this discussion, this special meeting ends sooner than 7 p.m., we will go into an executive session at that time. Thank you for letting me interrupt the discussion so we can go back to those questions, but I did want to publicly state that.
Thank you, President Margell. So I'll open it up. Director Clark.
If I can, I believe this will go to Rebecca, but the core resource implementation for CKALA, I know not all schools are exactly in the same space, but what percentage of them have now gone through they're finishing their second year, completing that, and what did the resource indicators say?
So you're asking if there's a difference of student proficiency achievement in so 2 years ago we had a handful of schools pilot CKLA, and then this is the second year where those pilot schools are now in their second year of implementation, and now all elementary schools are implementing CKLA. So they have all engaged in the same professional development this year. We still need the summative Smarter Balance data for 3rd through 5th grade to be able to show the proficiency difference so that we can compare from last spring to this spring, and then taking those sets of schools and then working with Lizzie and her team to see if we are seeing a proficiency difference, and that's information that we can get to you. Proficiency difference of second year implementation schools and first year. If that's what you're asking, that's something we'd be happy to produce for you.
Well, no, but you're getting
Okay.
to the point. Obviously, the first time through in a new curriculum, there are all kinds of adjustments that have to be made. And the hardest part is if you are at the end of your career and you're now making a substantive change in terms of what you're doing. And so my question is actually more related to how makeup of building staff is obviously completely dependent upon what has gone on before, and then the movement to 6th grade. And so you have an adjustment period going on that's both the makeup of the staff and the age levels that they're teaching because of the transfer of staff and so forth. So you're not going to have that info until we get the actual records for the year, but just a general sense of what you see going on.
I think the celebrations, and I've just been sitting in evaluation meetings with some of our executive leaders, and it really has been a celebration of fall to spring and how much coherence that we are seeing, how much coherence we are seeing of the implementation of common resources from 3rd grade classroom on one side of Kent to the other. There's consistency, and we call that a guaranteed and viable curriculum to ensure that all students should be expected to have the same access to the grade level rigor Common Core state standards. We are also seeing that pacing is being held accountable. So pacing means that we have a common framework where teachers should be around the same unit at the same time of the school year. So all students are being exposed to, taught, and assessed in the same skill area. So I would say that by observation, I know that we are going to finish our CKLA, the collaborative project that we're working on with the research team. We will see some more of those results. We'll get survey feedback, but I think that the celebration is common resources in the classroom, expected professional development across all elementary schools, customizing if schools are in different spaces of implementation. Yeah, so I think there's a lot to celebrate, and then there'll be more quantitative metrics to share forthcoming.
Thank you.
President Margell, do you have any questions?
None at this time, thank you.
And if I can, in goal 2, in the evaluation of the mental health services, one of the things, of course, well, all right, some of that was grant money, is that correct?
Yes.
And so what can we expect next year in terms of level of service and stability of providers?
Yeah, a great question. As you know, we provided an update in our last on where our team is continuing to gather that data. Everything from how many students, what schools, what areas. And recall, we had the virtual piece with that and looking at making decisions on either upping those kinds of contracts depending on the data and to see if they're meeting our needs. In addition to that, to your point about grants, we continue to leverage the state grants like LAP funding and also, I believe, ESPERT grants that we actually also leverage. So we have not, I will say, we have increased our funding for mental health services and partnerships since our COVID remote days. And we see that continuing. The state does too. It's allowing us to use LAP in a more of expanded way. So we continue to do that along with the ESPERT grant and others.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I just, couple of questions I have is, how are we doing? I see the student leadership, but are we reaching out to the parents so that we have the engagement of bringing parents along?
Yeah.
With the,
No, thank you for that question. As you know, that if we're focusing on our student groups that are not, you heard that from, I believe it was Victor a couple of weeks ago, that sometimes we have students that aren't engaged. Well, you can think about the parent as well as not being engaged. What are we doing in those areas? And I'll let Ms. Hamilton kind of talk a little bit more about what we're going to keep doing around the parent strategic engagement.
Yeah, so 2 really exciting things that are on the docket that we're planning for next year. The first is working with a local Kent organization around parent-student partnerships and looking at that engagement work, specifically for our Black and brown families, is what does it mean to be an active parent and partner in the school? What we've learned and recognized is that with such a diverse community, the role parents play in their child's education varies from culture to culture and from country to country, wherever you've been from, and that America is unique in how we expect parents to participate and be partner in their child's education, but also how they can advocate for their child. And so we're working with an organization that we're going to start at the middle school level, because that seems to be the time when parent engagement gets a little bit trickier. I think at the elementary level, by nature of them being minors and at the younger age, there's a lot more in-depth parent involvement, but as students get into that secondary level, the parents' participation kind of seems to fall back a little bit, or it gets a little bit more complicated because their students' school experience is a little bit more complicated. There's more teachers involved, there's more extracurricular activities, there's a lot of other stakeholders and people who are a part of that student's experience that the parents are trying to navigate and support and manage information from. So working with an organization that has this program that looks at approaching fusing kind of wellness along with some behavioral health aspects, along with some academic excellence aspects that does the work side by side with parents and their students at the same time in partnership with the school buildings. And so my office is looking at sponsoring kind of a pilot of that across a couple of our middle schools. The secondary component to that is that our office is also expanding part of that Shop Talk Learning series. One of the big feedback we got from a lot of the participants in that from our staff was like, how do we get this more down to the building level? And there was also kind of brought up in a lot of our discussions around some lack of representation and access for existing PTSA councils, PTSOs. There's a couple other acronyms that I've just learned recently. It's not just PTSAs that exist. We have some school buildings that have really robust PTSAs that are up and running, fund a lot of stuff, and others that it's just completely absent. And so rather than, again, tapping into that network, acknowledging that within our strands and building on the strand network, and by that I mean our feeder schools, and by that I mean the same elementary school, depending on what part of the community you live in. You know, you go to an elementary school, you go to a middle school, you'll go to a high school, and your students will transfer through those same feeder patterns or that same strand of school. So implementing a program that expands Shop Talk, and one of the aspects of that is to create strand events for families to come and engage and partner with each other and learn about their needs and how we can pool resources and coordinate supports across the different school buildings, so that if there is a family that's transitioning from an elementary school to a middle school, how can we create that net, that bridge that they can walk across for support and engagement, so they can expect that at the next level, and so on and so forth. So 2 things on the docket specifically out of my office that'll work to lean more into that. And the reason with the partnership that we're looking at is not jumping right into the actual programming, but taking a number of months to do the planning. Because it's not just about engaging parents or making the opportunity available. It's about how can they see themselves being successful in that program. And linguistic accessibility is a huge one, you know, and not just having, how do you support parents in a program and families in a program? It's not just having translated materials, but can they even read, can they read the materials? Sometimes the literacy levels are different. So how do you build a program and an experience that not only can be successful for their kids, successful for us as a district, but that parents can see themselves being successful in it as well? What ends up being the biggest burden to parents engaging or families engaging in partnering with schools or partnering in their students' education is not seeing themselves as being able to be successful in that effort or in that task. They'll show up and they'll be there, but to have that buy-in because they believe they can be successful is super crucial in guiding how we're approaching that work out of my team next year.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes, we have a few things going on also in this district as it pertains to parent engagement. We currently have written technical college teaching GED and high school diploma classes at Kent Meridian during the week for adults, our families, and our parents or guardians ages 21 plus years of age. And then we also have Green River College teaching courses, and this is their 2nd year at Kent Meridian in the evenings. Currently, they're teaching ceramic classes. However, there seems to be quite a bit of interest in classes like accounting and other topics. And I have provided all the schools with an opportunity to have their parents chime in and share what they want. Green River will consider it and then implement it if it's a feasible circumstance to do so. Also, for the first time, I guess since I've been at the district office, I launched in partnership with WAPS about a month ago, a Southern Regional Parent Academy. We had 4 sessions. They were 2 hours long for an 8-hour commitment total. And we had 2 in-person sessions at Kent Ridge and 2 virtual. Parents who attended all 4 of the series received a $250 stipend each, maximum 2 per family. And if they engaged and attended the co-partner the Showware STEM Festival, they received an additional stipend. And so I had the pleasure of notifying 2 principals yesterday of parents who completed the series, and I sent a picture of the certificates that they earned. What parents learned from that is they had an opportunity to be included in conversations regarding student progress and student needs. They also wanted to be a part of the solution. Part of one of their projects required them to engage with administration in the building regarding what's coming up this summer and how could they be of help. We're hoping to expand that offering to parents next year on a larger level. This was only a 2.5-week turnaround time. So I think we did pretty good. We had about 9 sets of parents show up from around the region.
Ms. Cleveland, when you mentioned STEM, STEAM, that's one thing. I brought this slide back, if I may, to the board, the purple highlighted and also the green highlighted, and just tagging on to Ms. Cleveland that, we've also embarked upon the STEM, STEAM pieces with deliverables that we've accomplished, like a communication plan and the community partnering that we've done with the City of Kent and all of the surrounding industries. In fact, I believe there's another meeting tomorrow that will continue that conversation because we have come forth with some deliverables in making that intentional. You heard from my staff about what we want to do is create that as a K-12 system process, and that also is important in the purple where you see school improvement processes. You as a board during our policy work sessions talked about the school improvement planning process needed to have more intentionality around a STEM STEAM goal, and so we did that. And so we continue to do that, and all of this is intertwined in some of the work that Ms. Cleveland mentioned. By the way, thank you to your leadership and her leadership and her experience with how to bring city municipalities, industries, and students like our BIPOC students to be able to see what these opportunities are and create these apprenticeships so that we can continue to focus on that K-12, focus on STEM, STEAM, and provide the professional development to our staff, and we align our resources toward that end to make sure we're providing that as stated in the board's goal in that area. Remember, we were really intentional about that, so I wanted to make sure I stressed that part.
Thank you. I mean, that really is amazing. That's amazing work. Thank you for mentioning that. I have another question. How do we have more of the residency program that is just Meridian Elementary? How can we?
Yeah, so the question is really around that, Ms. Aguilar?
Yes.
Well, it's just been a lot of relationship building.
Okay.
I know Director Clark had actually brought over a magazine, I think it was last year, over to Mr. Hunter and I. So one of the things that we mentioned last year is those that have any connections, we're open to any ideas and just connecting with the different universities, partnerships. This one actually came, I had been building that relationship with the Central Washington person and happened to know the principal of the school, and they had some communications. So then I brought in our coordinator from PD that works with the Grow Your Own, because sometimes it's that collaboration from different people from the district. So we all met and they said, hey, we just received this funding. We thought of you guys. We have this partnership with this school. Can you guys help us make this happen? Right. So it's just a continuous collaboration. I know that we have been having conversations even from last year with the UW-Tacoma piece with Kent Lab Academy. We had talked about the Teacher Academy, which we're still having conversations and exploring. So it's just a continuous relationship building. And then that way, whenever there's funding available or pieces like that, they reach out to us and say, hey, we know that you guys have been interested, would you be able to partner up with us?
Because the reason why I'm saying is that
at elementary, the kids are still very young. So it is good because we can start young. But what I was thinking is more like another high school,
And
so
they're
that we
having
can grow,
conversations, yeah,
right? So we
yeah.
can grow our own and then
Yeah.
engage those high school kids so that they have a path to come back. And
Yeah.
that's what the way I was thinking is that.
Yeah. No, and there are some high schools that we're talking
Talking
to
about,
as well within that process. Yeah, this one was one of the ones that just got
yeah.
completed. Yeah, but yeah, the
Absolutely.
conversations still continue.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank
So I'll
you.
piggyback on Assistant Director Aguilar.
Right.
So we are out in high schools, right, talking to, in terms of taking advantage of the diversity that is in the community.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we are out in high schools talking to our high school students
Right.
about the great possibilities here that we can present in KSD. We are going to extend that to our middle school.
Right.
That's the plan next year. But we have, again, in the
Right.
spirit of taking advantage of the diversity that is
Absolutely,
currently here in
absolutely.
the community, we have extended that out to the high
To the high
school and will continue to do so.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Clark?
I'm looking at the overlap that we talked about.
Yes.
And under Goal 2, enhance the district's unified communication systems. And I realized that you had made a process to basically look for some agencies to help and ran a testing program. And you evidently chose
Apogee, yes.
Yeah. And I'm just curious of the implementation of that for next year.
Great.
What
No.
you see.
Great question. Just as a reminder, I think we, can't remember the board meeting, but the board took action on that system, and I think I had shared that having been in the district quite a long time, we took a number of applications that we were using, like School Messenger, our web page, and those kinds of things, and they was kind of clunky, to say the least, on how they talk to each other. This system now is going to be more comprehensive, cheaper, and more comprehensive, and trying to reach out and have a one-stop shop for our community, staff, and others. So I'll let Ms. Sisley talk a little bit more about the implementation.
Yeah, keep talking.
It, as we speak, we have a meeting tomorrow, weekly meetings with the team. And next steps would be, we're looking at a website design, because it will be a whole new look and feel with our branding colors, of course, but that's the first step. And then we're trying to set training dates. We need to make sure that our principals and our office staff are trained. So we had a meeting with our office staff today. We know that if the emergency occurs, we need to have a system in place ready to go. Office staff, I received, I don't know how many emails back, and way to go, hearts and everything about this new tool. They were so excited after seeing the demonstration. So I think we have a strong implementation plan moving forward to provide training, new website, and then last but not least, of course, helping our families understand how to access this tool. We're talking about putting posters in the schools with QR codes. They can easily download the app. All the principals want to add this to their communications at the beginning of school, possibly at their open houses or other curriculum nights, so the parents can easily access the tool. It's quite a robust communications plan and tool to implement this. It's going to be great. At least I hope they live up to all the expectations. But
And, all right, so you're dealing with central administration training, you're dealing with building training, and obviously there needs to be some, I don't know, metric employed to look at success rates for different groups. I assume is built into that.
yes, so we're going to offer clock hours for our teachers, since we'll be taking attendance at meetings, so we'll know how many of our teachers are actually trained. And then we also will look on the back end and see who actually is using the tool, and then reach out to staff and help them, ask them why they're not, and then offer additional training or whatever they may need to help them use the tool. We will also be discontinuing School Messenger remind some of the other tools that are being used across the district so that by October, this will be the only tool for classroom communications. We'll still have email and Teams and that kind of thing, but by October, we want to facilitate the use of this tool. It really is to the benefit of our families. It translates 2 ways so that you can directly communicate with your family in their preferred language, and they communicate back in your preferred language. And you can also build newsletters, and as you build your newsletter, it will automatically translate it. And that can be, right now we have to pay to have those translated. This is all included in the tool, so that Superintendent Vela mentioned it is cheaper. One of the office staff today mentioned that they use School Messenger as a translation tool. They'll put something in School Messenger and then copy it back out into a different tool to send out to their families, especially if it's a printed copy. And I just thought this will be such a better way, more efficient. It'll translate all at the same time and then send it out to the families. So yes, we'll be tracking that closely.
Okay. Yeah, and if I can, just knowing the way schools operate, if there could be some mechanism to do a checkoff on back-to-school nights, because there's obviously those that can attend and those that can't, but the question is the level of communication that's taking place.
Yes, definitely a data point that there's a lot of communication back to school, and certainly a data point for us to look at. We also have, in my experience, that we have staff that take off with certain tools. We call them the power users that get it, and wow, they become our best teachers, if you will, as it relates to training, and they often will learn a lot of the shortcuts or those things that really help us, and especially in our most diverse communities where we have multiple languages spoken in a certain school. That feature we just talked about is going to be critical to Ms. Sisley.
I just want to, Cecily, make sure that when that tool is translating, we're not just letting that tool be the only eye on that message that's been sent, because machines tend to make mistakes, and to have several messages sent in different languages, people ask me, can you please make sure the district reads it through before it sends out? I just want to make sure that we're aware of sometimes translation, it doesn't happen. It doesn't have that connotation meaning.
Yeah, we had that challenge with the other translation service, and I think that's getting better.
Right.
But we always still have to review it.
Just
check it and have oversight.
Have extra eye.
Yeah.
Translation tool is actually a higher quality tool than what we're currently using. It's called Google Neural Translate, which is you have to pay for that versus just the free Google, which is what School Messenger uses. So we're going to pay a little bit extra to have a better translation tool.
They can call whatever they want.
Just not
But I'm
accurate.
telling you this, it happens, right?
Oh, I agree. Yes.
And so I just want to make sure that we're not sending a message that is convoluted and people get confused.
No, thank you for that. I appreciate the questions of that. Just doing a quick time check. President Margell, we are at that point, but I want to make sure board had a chance to ask more questions that they needed to, but I do have Dr. Nyland I want to turn it over to once we're sure we can move on. So President Margell?
I believe that we actually have another hour, don't we?
Yes.
Scheduled?
But I want to make sure everyone got questions in if they needed. Otherwise, we move
yes.
forward. Okay. All right. I want to go ahead and then move on to Dr. Nyland to kind of talk to us about next steps. We started this one of four a couple of weeks ago, but I wanted Dr. Nyland to go ahead and pick up from there and let us know what's next for our board. So Dr. Nyland.
Yeah, thank you. I only have 2 slides and no arrows. So,
There you go.
so the first one is what the board has accomplished. And so this is kind of like we're in season 3. So it's kind of like, what's happened so far? So kudos to the board and the district. So adopting the district goals, and that's gone through several phases, most recently the strategic plan, which has community input. So getting the community input and getting those 4 goals, 5 years, and steady implementation. The superintendent evaluation rubric is research-based and also now moving into a second year with that document. And then the quarterly reviews, which you've been getting those updates this year, and a lot of information. And so what's next is for the board to complete the annual evaluation for the superintendent. And I do have one more thing I want to add before I move from this slide to the next one. So I just love the conversation from staff in terms of 3 things, I think. One is kind of continuous improvement. It's an iterative process. So we heard from several about how, oh, we learned this and then we had to do this differently. We learned this and we had to do this differently. So that's part of that 5-year process. Is doing the same thing for 5 years won't necessarily get us there, but learning what to do differently is what's going to make the difference and get us there. And then the third thing was collaboration. So I don't know, I keep looking for this visual. I've seen one somewhere. This giant millstone with the little ant people pushing on it, and it builds momentum. So I have no idea where that would ever exist in reality. The only flywheel I know is the thing I have to replace on my car every 90,000 miles or whatever it is. But the idea is kind of like, and you're hearing that, so it's kind of like, okay, we've got this in place and we've got more partners. Oh, we've got this in place and we've got more schools on board. We've got this in place and we've got more students on board. So it's building. The momentum is building and more people are seeing the vision and getting on board and learning more about how to make it work well. So kudos to the board for the good work underway. And then my next slide is, board met last week to talk about the evaluation process and what it looks like. And we've also been iterating, so this is an improvement in the process from what we learned last year, is that the board needed more time, and so there was more time built into this process. So tonight, the board has heard the big picture overview, which is just the tip of the iceberg. You're also going to be getting the superintendent self-evaluation, which runs to many, many pages, and then it has links in there for what you've gotten in earlier updates and your weekly updates and your quarterly reviews. So your track shoes, it's time to break out your track shoes. Between now and next week, it's your opportunity to dig into the data, the superintendent self-evaluation, and to come prepared next week. Sorry, my voice is disappearing here. I haven't been doing any talking. Come prepared next week with some ratings that you can compare and discuss with your colleagues, with that goal of finishing the evaluation on June 11th. So good work. Just a ton of work has gone into this from multiple years, and then this year throughout this strategic plan, quarterly update, and superintendent evaluation. So good work.
Thank you, Dr. Nyland, for the reminder, and that concludes our presentation, my presentation today. I want to again thank our board for their time, not only for tonight, but really the time you've put in thus far and what you will be doing in the future, and we're doing this together. I also want to take a moment to thank our team that was here tonight. They've done a great job, not just this year, but really over the last 3 years, I know, since I became interim and then superintendent. And like I mentioned in my opening, this is really the first year completion of our strategic plan. I look forward to where we're going together in the future. So thank you to our team. And I'll turn it back over to President Margell to conclude. And we did note in the protocol if we were to finish early, so I'll give it to you.
Thank you. We did note that that we would be moving to our second executive session of the evening if we did conclude this portion earlier. I did have a question on, just to make sure that I'm announcing this correctly. Since we are moving earlier, does that give us the entire time? Or are we still limited to the 60 minutes for it just starts earlier?
Yeah, I believe unless Mr. Leonard says differently, I believe we could use the time to do that, so.
Okay, so then we would
Yeah.
have until 8 o'clock still.
That's correct.
Perfect, okay. Well, then it is 6:05 and we are adjourning this special meeting. We are now going into executive session for approximately 1 hour and 55 minutes. The purpose of this executive session is to evaluate the performance of a public officer or employee.
So, President Margell, I believe it's approximately 1 hour.
That was my question.
That was her
is that
Yes.
we had
Sorry, I
initially
just-
said that we were going to start at 7.
Yeah, sorry, I was just getting that information from my team.
Okay, so it is still 60 minutes that we have. We will just
Correct.
adjourn the whole evening earlier, okay?
Yes.
I'm going to start that over again, just so
Okay.
we have it on the record correctly.
Right.
So we did adjourn at 6:05, the special meeting. We are now going into executive session, which is approximately 60 minutes. The purpose of the executive session is to evaluate the performance of a public officer or employee. Thank you.
Thank you.